Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
And we welcome everybody to the show. Happy New Year. Neil Coolong, by the way, tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Hey, they have a chance.
Well, I will say this just to set it up. I plan my first question to be, who's playing better right now, the Steelers or the Eagles?
Ooh.
Exactly. That's the first question.
My question for you is, do Steelers players report? That is my question.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, yeah. We'll talk about the game in a moment. But we'll get to the college football playoff part first. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you are Nick Saban or you're Sean Lewis as a head coach. You will make a couple of calls along the way where your fan base will sit there and go, what? Which, of course, is what the Alabama fan base is saying about the last call with Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's some interesting parts to that play, at least, which is...
Kalen DeBoer is great. Right? Kalen DeBoer is really good.
They nearly lost that game.
Okay. Yet, you're sitting there watching like, what are we doing here? He's throwing the football like when they're trying to like run the clock and get timeouts. Incomplete. What did the clock do? Doggone, it stopped. What are we doing here? So I'm sitting there at home like, okay. Right? And then, right, like the players don't know the rules. Okay? You're Johnson, the running back. Crawl your way off the field. Don't lay. Okay, get your buddies to pick you up again. Keep the clock moving. Right? By the way, Will Howard, the Kansas State former Kansas State quarterback, is going to take an official visit to Ohio State. After watching their bowl game,
they need a quarterback.
They need somebody to close.
Yeah. Hey, all I'm going to say, Syracuse clearly now is going to be a powerhouse. Kyle McCord, Fran Brown's recruiting a lot of guys. We're basically getting the entire Georgia team that didn't play. We're getting all of them.
Well, right now, transportal window 1 is closed. Okay, but if you're Penn State and the group that played on the 30th, it ends tomorrow. That's the 5 days. So they're not done yet in terms of, okay? And so now we'll find out between now and tomorrow who plans on doing what. And then the next window to look at, now, of course, the championship team's got an additional 5 days.
Pretty much through the end of next week is essentially what we're looking at.
Yeah. But the next key date is the 15th or 16th of January. That is when players declare for the NFL draft. That's what they have to do between now and then. Classes start at Penn State on Monday. There is a late entry into Penn State that you can get to. So it's not just like, oh, X showed up and he's in class today, which is possible, or it could be a week later. Okay? Well, it is... You try and do a great job of managing your personnel, and you have to get fortunate with certain things. For example, Georgia, they had all their people. Florida State had nobody. They had 20 guys not playing the game. And the result is an unqualified football disaster.
And Kirby Smart and other coaches and players being like, this is NIL and transfer portal are causing these issues.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And also the element that has been planted that these are meaningless games. Well, excuse me, if you're throwing your body out there and playing, it's not meaningless. In fact, to me, it's a game. The game counts. Though it's not meaningless, the game counts. So whomever came up with the idea of meaningless exhibitions is obviously somebody that has never in their life played a game.
It's also not meaningless to the guys who this is their final game they're playing in college, and they're about to
it's still
leave the program.
Game, okay, it's part of the season. It's part of the season.
It goes on the record at the end of the season to show James Franklin and Penn State went 10-3. It counts for that third one.
It counts. So everybody knew going into the season that Penn State had 3 guys that had an opportunity. Now we'll see how it plays out to be in the first round of the draft. Olu, Chop Robinson, and maybe Kalen King. That's going into the season. So Chop immediately opted out.
Not surprising.
Right. And so you knew the entire month. And then we knew the entire month that Johnny Dixon was not going to play. Okay. Kalen, at least the beginning of the month, was a bit iffy about playing, and the same thing with Olu.
His announcement was like, I am going to be in Atlanta with my brothers, and it was like the prediction on our pregame show here was he's going to play the first snap and the last snap if they're winning. If they're not winning, he'll play the first snap, and that's it. It'll be a ceremonial thing.
Look, let me say this about Olu. And I talked to his parents for a few minutes. And I'll tell you exactly what I said to them because I knew he wasn't going to play. I mean, look, I'm there. I know he's going to play and he's not going to play, and sort of how it's going to be managed. Okay, but you can't say it in the pregame show because that's part of the access part where it's just deep background, and you don't sit there and reveal deep background. You just know what's going to happen. That, okay, Caden Wallace is not going to play in the second half, and Adese is not going to play in the second half, and Curtis Jack, the guys that aren't going to play in the second, okay? And, Donko's going to be the right tackle. There are all sorts of things, it's by getting access, I can talk about it now, but that's not my job to tell you ahead of time. And anybody who thinks it's my job to tell you ahead of time has never sat in this chair. Okay? Sorry, but that's not how it works. And I said to them, I knew he wasn't going to play. I said, look, do you know what it meant to everybody that he decided to come back and play this year? Because a year ago, everybody, he's absolutely leaving. He's a top 10 pick. I said, it's incredible he came back and he played this year and played at the level that he did, which was expected. But I said he threw everything he had into it. I said a lot of people are grateful that he decided to come back and play this year because most people had counted him out already. I said, so one game, I said, I'm not going to sit there and sweat about a game with a guy that threw it out there for 12 games extra in his career that maybe some people were shocked he was going to do. Most people thought he'd be drawing checks in the NFL. But they're very, Olu's very education oriented, has his degree, the whole thing. He's really smart. And so I didn't think twice about that.
Yeah.
Because again, everybody, remember, you always have to lend some level of perspective. All these reactions you get in the moment, I'm in the moment. Okay, take a moment here, try this, see how it works. Let's breathe and think for a moment, okay? Where are you in the moment in time? In the moment in time a year ago, everybody said he's gone. All these people, gone. Oh, back? He's coming back? Oh, no, really? You were shocked and thrilled he came back. Now you're mad at him for missing a game?
Yeah.
He came back and played 12 games for you. Okay? When everybody thought he was gone 1 year ago. Perspective. What's the movie? Skyfall. Okay? Daniel Craig is James Bond. Beginning of the movie, he gets shot. Goes into a waterfall.
Adele's a great song.
We hear Adele. She's incredible. Yeah. When he finally comes back, M says, where were you? He says, off gaining perspective. He said he says it's incredible when you just have time to yourself and you gain perspective. Mm-hmm. Have some perspective about what's going on. He gave you 12 games, right? That nobody 1 year ago thought he was going to do.
He probably lost himself, $8 million? Something like that, 5 to 10 by sitting out.
He didn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
So, okay, he doesn't play. Would I love to have seen him? Of course I would have. They changed the dynamic of the team. Drew Shelton's going to be a good left tackle. Mm-hmm. Drew's more comfortable left than he is right. But the second half of the game, that's where it really came into play. And I knew about the corner play going in. Terry Smith, Jack, and I were talking, and we said, hey, look. And Terry looked at us. This was his quote. He says, well, guys, he says, it's up to the young pups now. All right, let's see what the young pups can do. Mm-hmm. All right, Zion Tracy's going to be
good,
a really good corner. Going to be. Mm-hmm. All right, he's out there cutting his teeth against a very good set of wide receivers. Right, Elliott Washington played nothing but cover 3 in high school, so he's had to really learn the intricacies of all the coverages. He's eventually going to be really good. Mm-hmm. Right, eventually. I didn't say this hour. Right, Cam Miller was a victim of a guy that made some really terrific catches. And you do need that. Okay, quarterbacks need that, and Drew needs that. Okay, Drew or Bo, it doesn't matter who. They need guys to make tough catches, okay?
I mean, that wide receiver core is ridiculous for Ole Miss. It was really good going in. We knew that.
Wade was good. He played okay. Watkins was good. It was the two guys, okay? Two guys really did everything. Harris made a series of terrific catches, got one-handed catches, sideline, feet inbounds, okay, and pre-scoring. But who did I say was the key going in? Which guy did I say was the key going in?
Caden Prescorn?
Yes.
Yeah.
I said that's the key to the whole offense as to how they run it, besides Dart, of course.
Yeah.
And people forget Dart was the starting quarterback at USC.
Dart's good. Dart's really good at football.
Really good.
Probably, and we said this on both the pre and post game, he's probably the best quarterback Penn State faced this season.
Yes, he's better than McCarthy. Yes.
That's what we were playing at, and Penn State fans, I forgot that he's really good at football. And they were like, oh, it's Ole Miss. It's not you're facing Jalen Milroe or something. No, Jackson Dart's really good at football.
And you don't have King and Dixon out there. Right? And let's give you something that's subtle, okay? You go 6 defensive backs. Who's the best blitzer when they decide to go zone blitz in that defensive backfield? By a margin.
Johnny Dixon.
Right. See, there's certain dominoes that happen that, personnel-wise, that you're used to. Now, they used Daquan Hardy, and Hardy did have one really good one where they came off the edge with him. But you lose that part.
You lost 3 of your starting 11 players on defense. I mean, it's never going to be easy.
You played the second half of the game. They played with 10 of their 22 starters that would normally be starting. Now, I do talk about guys who are in that second unit that they play a lot. They're kind of like starters.
They come in, they rotate pretty well.
Right. But there is a reason why that guy is – I always love there's certain things that are said where you sit back and go, no. And people have accepted as gospel. So I'll give you 2. That people – it's gospel. Right? Bill Parcells said, I don't care. Your record is – who you are. Over here in the back, no, that's not true. Okay? That's not true. Yes, there's a record, wins, losses, got that part. But there are circumstances surrounding why your record is the way it is. And it's not excuses, there's circumstances. Okay? Sometimes the circumstances fall in perfectly and it's great. Like a team goes through and let's take an NFL team goes 13-4 and have no injuries. Right? Well, we're 8-9. That's who we are. Lost our starting quarterback, missed 5 weeks. Right? Had to go with the backup guy. Right? This guy got hurt. Circumstances. Okay? Got a bad call in a game we're on the verge of winning. Circumstances. Okay? Got a great call right when we needed it. We're 13-4. Right? Didn't really deserve that. It was a bad call, but we got the benefit of it. That's why he says, I hear people will say that. Like you sit there and go, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is next man up. I love that one. Next man up. Right. Now, I understand the attitude of the player being next man up. The coaching staff has to accept that that's the next man up. But there's a reason the other guy is starting.
Like, as a New Orleans Saints fan, it always brought me joy through 2017 to 2021 when Marshawn Lattimore or Malcolm Jenkins would be out hurt and Ken Crawley would come in and play. Ken Crawley, the fourth defensive back for the Saints. He'd come in and play like 3 snaps at a game, and you'd be like, this guy's great. I love him. He's awesome. He can give us 3 great snaps a game. I love it. And then he plays for 4 straight games, and he lets up like 500 yards. And it's like, that's why he's not starting every game. He can give you 3 good ones, but he's going to give you not as many as Marshawn Lattimore or Malcolm Jenkins or Kalen King. Like, it just, there's a level. There's a level to this.
In other words, Zion Tracy down the road is going to be a really good corner here. So this is really a starting point for him. Right? But it's a starting point for him. He never played these kind of snaps in his career. I'm just picking a guy here. All right? He hasn't played those kind of snaps before in his career. Abdul Carter gets hurt. It's a legal play because of where it occurred, but it's a dirty play.
Yeah.
Right? It's legal because it was in the 1-yard area of each side of the line of scrimmage, but it's a cut block, and that's how he got hurt. It's a dirty play, but it's a legal play. So you know what I'm talking about?
The spirit of the game is hurt.
It's not
legally,
it's not a penalty, but still. So, look, you had a lot of guys utilizing their starting point. You saw a lot of Khalil Dinkins at tight end. Dinkins is going to be a good player. This upcoming season, tight end's fine. Warren, Dinkins, right? Rappley, they're all going to be good players. Right? Donko showed, Donko can play guard or tackle. He's going to be fine there. J.B. Nelson only got 1 snap in the game, right? He'll play more. Shelton's much more, in my opinion, more comfortable at left than right tackle. I'm not going to get into everybody because I want players to announce what they're doing first before I talk about it. Okay.
Which will be, I'm guessing, the 17th. We'll discuss kind of in more depth. We can actually chat about
you'll know
where players are.
You'll know. You may know on most of these guys by the end of the week. I mean, because that's another one.
Yeah.
Their jersey was framed at the quarterback club banquet. They're gone. Over here in the back, no.
I believe grad school's a thing for people.
Over here in the back, no, just like it's not absolute. I mean, I know you want to be the smartest person at the tailgate. I got it, but
hey, Perry Ellis played for like 17 years in college basketball. Anyone can play for a while.
Right. I mean, you know how many guys I've seen go through and like they do the quarterback club thing and their jerseys there. Okay, fine, but then all of a sudden they're running out on senior day next year. So there are 2 or 3 players right off the top of my head I can think that I know are coming back. But okay. So so Georgia had everybody it showed. Ole Miss had everybody but one it showed. And it made a big difference of the game. And it's 23-20 in halftime. You get the ball to start the second half. Penn State's actually in a good spot. The third quarter had been the quarter all year for Penn State, 115-3. Michigan had the 3. Okay. And they got outgained like 139-14 in the third quarter. I got outscored 11-0. I think it was like, I don't know.
It got out of hand quickly.
Like 10 first downs to none. Penn State had 3 3-and-outs in the third quarter, so they didn't have a single first down in the third quarter. That is way, way off from where they are. And they're going to have to figure out what to do with it. So let's just now talk about that part, about what to do with not specifically this game. Okay,
but moving forward.
Let's move forward here for a moment. Number one, the playoff is going to solve some of that for the top 12 teams. The date of the games next year will be a Friday night game, December 20th, and 3 games on Saturday, December 21st. So just the ramp up to it is going to be quicker, right? So you're talking about the possibility that, say, Penn State is fortunate and they get to be one of the 12, right? They'll be playing 10 days earlier. Okay, 10 days earlier than what they played this time.
Yeah, as things stand, it's November 30th is the final game of the season against Maryland, and then if they're to make the championship game, it's a week later,
right.
And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you've got
so the ramp up is quicker. So even if they don't make the championship game, they'd still have 3 weeks between games. Well, that's a really good time frame, and that works for everybody. And that's not just Penn State; it's every team in the country. Okay. So all of them will be in that boat. The ones that will have to wait longer will be the 4 conference champions. The 4 highest ranked conference champions will be the ones that get the bye. Pluses to that, you don't have to put your body out physically. And the other part is, okay, where are we in terms of rust and so forth? I mean, that debate will be something we'll talk about a year from now. And that will keep opt-outs to because
no one's opting out of a playoff game.
Well,
That's not happening.
But not only that, but the calendar being 3 weeks works. Okay, so that will be part of what is solved. But there's more that needs to be solved. More. They have to solve the NIL issue, and it's an issue. Friend of mine gave me a New York Times article, the best teams that money could buy. The 4 teams in the college football playoff use cash payments from fan collectives in unique ways to build their rosters, showing how much influx of money has changed college sports. Okay? And they're talking about Texas in 2021 finished 5-7. Steve Sarkisian said, quote, "We need bigger humans." That was his quote. Okay? So they found a new and, yes, legal way to do it. Recruit them with cash.
Yeah.
A new tax-exempt charity called Horns with Heart, set up by Texas football fans, startled the sports world by promising to pay every Longhorn offensive lineman a salary of $50,000 a year.
Not half bad for a college kid.
Cameron Williams, 6'5", 369-pound lineman. Me growing up, I really didn't have money, so the $50,000, it was just amazing. All right? Yes, it is amazing.
Like going through this, I believe players on scholarship have housing done for them, correct? Is that?
Yeah.
So they have housing, they have all this stuff. That is $50,000 they are getting as a straight up salary. Okay. That's not going to housing. It's basically for food and fun. And for
they
family.
Get training table.
Yeah.
They get training table. Okay. They get scholarship paid for. Room paid for. Food paid for.
Yep.
Books paid for. Okay. They also get cost of attendance. People forget about that part. Oh,
and
by the way,
$70,000.
And by the way, well, no, it's not. This cost of attendance isn't that much.
Well, Syracuse it is.
No, well, cost of attendance is
like 40, 50.
It's a number.
Yeah,
but it's different at every school. It depends on what the circumstances are.
It's a lot of money.
Right? So cost of attendance. But there are other things that you get as well. And by the way, you still qualify for Pell Grants. And about 1/3 to 40% of football players, let's just say 1/3, let's be conservative, qualify for Pell Grants. You get to keep the money. You don't have to pay it back. You have no debt when you leave. Okay. Now you get $50,000 on top of it.
And that's from one collective. That's not from other things you do as well. Because I'm guessing some of those guys might also have other things on top of what they are doing, where you might see, like, I'm guessing if, let's say, that $50,000 also went to Quinn Ewers. He also was getting money from other collectives and other businesses and other things. Like, that is $50,000 minimum.
Now, remember though, right? It is bringing up the IRS does enter into this.
Yes.
All right. And so you're worried about imbalance in teams. The collectives of the 4 college football playoff schools, Michigan, Texas, Washington, and Alabama, all reached this point by adapting to and exploiting the flood of cash. Trevor Keegan, offensive lineman from Michigan. Mm-hmm. Every team in college football has a different approach to NIL, which is true. Mm-hmm. And Penn State's initial approach, not endorsed by the football coach, by the way, was more conservative, right? These teams were aggressive out of the gate. Penn State's now exponentially more aggressive, but they're still playing from behind.
Yeah.
Okay, they're playing from behind. And players say the group payments have been a welcome, long overdue addition to their scholarships. It's the least they could do is to pay us a little bit in the hours that we put into an Alabama wide receiver, Bond, Isaiah Bond.
It's a great name to have.
I know. That was a great line by Brad in the SEC championship game. I said, Brad, that was great. He says, Bond, Isaiah Bond. I was like, oh, that was really good. I said to Brad, I wish I'd said that. But I didn't have a game with Isaiah Bond in it. So we're walking around some days like we're 85 and we're 19, 20 years old, describing the physical toll that it takes on players. Like they're all beat up at the end of the season. That's why when they, like, for some players are going to the NFL draft, they're looking around going, God, I feel like crud right now. Because everybody at the end of the year is beat up.
You're bruised, you're battered, you're broken. Even though you may not be injured, your body is hurting.
Yes. Bond said that he had not realized how much money college football generates for the school, which was $131 million per year at Alabama. What they're contributing back, it's nothing compared to what they're making, but it helps.
To start.
The Texas plan to pay linemen called the Pancake Factory, and this article is written by Billy Witz and David Farenhold of the New York Times.
Yeah, by the way, the Pancake Factory is my favorite name I've ever heard for any NIL collective. That is a stellar name.
The collective called Texas One Fund did it by exploiting the new system, which allowed endorsement-seeking companies to pay players for their rights of name, image, and likeness. Collectives flipped that. See, that's the part I never counted on. I was always for name, image, and likeness. Hi, I'm Kyle F., starting quarterback here at Penn State. Why don't you come over here to pick car dealership, blah, blah, blah. He says, and by the way, if car sales, you're not doing the commercials anymore. If they go, they loving you. They want more commercials from you. That's the American system. Okay, DJ Uyunglele, right? Dr. Pepper, bad start Clemson, month into the season. Suddenly DJ's not in the commercials anymore. Got it. Okay. So they came up with this $50,000 per. That's their line. At Texas, the collective is paid $14 million to Longhorn athletes since 2021. Now, that's not this year. It's since 2021. But still, $14 million is a staggering number. 64% of the total payments to Texas college student athletes from any source, and more than all the money from shoe companies, sports drinks, and other brands was built to serve. Okay, 64%. The result: money to players, even those too obscure to have much value as endorsers. Williams, the offensive lineman, bought his mother her first cell phone. Then here's one of my favorites. Adonai Mitchell. Yes, Adonai Mitchell. Yes, yes. A wide receiver who caught touchdown passes in each of the last 2 national championship games with Georgia.
Pretty good player.
Transferred.
Yeah.
He played in the last 2 national title games, caught a touchdown pass in each of those games for Georgia, left.
Peace.
Right? Collective money at Texas. So he bought his 2-year-old daughter what she wanted for Christmas. I got her a kitchen. That's her favorite thing. I'll call her, and she's like, I'm making carrots, Daddy. Right? Okay, that's great. Okay? The Texas Collective set another pattern of more than 70 other collectives followed. It organized itself as a tax-exempt charity, a 501(c)(3).
Yep.
And that's what, and I've seen this at Penn State, in terms of you're trying to get yourself now into that mode. All right, and I think they've done it already with Happy Valley United because they're already in the process of doing it with another one. Okay, I think they merged, and because of the merger, they were able
to do
it. But they already were in the process with one of the collectives of doing it. That's why they could do it because the process had already started. As a tax-exempt charity, that means its donors get, voila, a tax deduction. That's what it means. The groups have justified their charitable status by paying athletes to visit sports camps and hospitals and to post about nonprofits on social media. Okay, that's the Zach Edey deal in Toronto. Zach Edey is not allowed to get money from the Purdue collective. Why? He is a foreign player. I know you sit there and go, see, that's what people don't realize.
Yeah.
Zach Edey is not an American.
Canada, baby.
Right? Well, he's from Canada. What? Suddenly did we annex Canada? No, he's a foreign player. So they partnered with 3 charities in Toronto to make sure he's getting about $1 million a year.
Getting a lot of money.
Yeah, he's getting cash. The collectives do have a problem. It's a 3-letter problem.
I believe you're looking for 3 letters. I think they might be.
It's not CIA.
Is it? Am I thinking of? I believe those letters. People don't like hearing them. IRS.
Yes.
Is that the correct 3 letters?
Yes. After initially approving dozens of collectives for tax-exempt status, the IRS seemed to reverse itself in May. It issued a memo saying collectives might not qualify as tax-exempt after all because their real purpose was to pay players and not serve the public good. Excuse me, if you've ever been to the 100,000-seat stadium in Austin, over here in the back I have, it appears to be serving the public good. But their point is this. You can't just take a collective or a booster club, and this is Andrew Morton. He's a nonprofit law attorney from Handler Thayer, all right? He cites the tax code. He says you can't just take a collective or booster club and turn it into a 501c, 501c3, and then just pay everybody just whatever the heck you want to pay them. So the IRS could shut the collectives down or impose penalty taxes if they do not change course. The Texas collective is considering changing course in some ways, which would overhaul its spending and giving a larger portion of its money directly to other charities. The collective paid football players $1.8 million this fall alone. Okay, now I have no idea what kind of charity work justifies this. Okay, there's only so many guys that can go out on the United Way Day of Caring.
You can only go so many places and so many
There's
towns.
only so many libraries they can read at. There's only so many, All right, I got it. And see, this is where they have to get control over this. If you carve football out of this, all this probably works, said Peterson. He said it accounts for 81% of all the money they spend goes on football. 81% of the Texas collective goes to football. Alabama.
Oh boy, this is gonna be fun, isn't it?
Alabama.
I believe just off the top of my head, knowledge-wise, Jalen Milroe over $1 million, I think. If I remember correctly, that was a whole thing of like he hadn't played a snap and he was $1 million.
Yeah. Many collectives say next to nothing about themselves, guarding a competitive advantage by preventing rivals and athletes from figuring out what the players are actually paid.
It's fair. Smart.
Yeah. One for-profit company called Yay Alabama releases few details about what it raises or spends. They even declined to describe itself as a collective. They refer to themselves as an entity.
We're an entity, Steve. We're an entity that makes sure that Alabama players are doing right in this community.
So much in this country changed when a president looked into a camera and said, it depends what the definition of is. I'm like going, right? I'm not being political here. That's when like the language thing started, right? We're not a collective. We're an entity. Oh, they come up with all sorts of like, labels, names, it's like, oh. Another Collective, which is a tax-exempt charity called Walk of Champions.
Mm-hmm.
Elliot Maisel is one of their board members. He told the New York Times earlier this month, his collective said that the university has told his collective how much to pay each team. Maisel estimated that the amount the football team worked out came out to $2,500 per month per player.
Not bad.
Okay. So I'm going to assume that's for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
that's a 40 grand salary.
25? No.
2,500 a month.
It would be $30,000.
$30,000. Well, that's $40,000 salary before tax.
The coach in the athletic department determined all that. We don't have a discretion, and we don't want it, Maisel said.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to even it out as much as possible, which, by the way, I think is in some ways good for the locker room, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It makes sense because I know that was a lot of the concern was that you're going to have players that are going to be Jalen Milroe, make $1 million, and his right tackle is going to be making 15 grand, and he's going to be like, dude, you're making more of that in a day than I am in my entire year. Like, what the heck? And
look, Dan Cabala does a great job of working out stuff, like, for example, like a jersey deal or a T-shirt deal, where everybody gets something, and I mean, they do that.
Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of players over the past year or so who have signed deals, but they've been like, in the deal, I have to be able to make half of this for my O-line if they're a quarterback.
Well,
or they're like,
Drew Aller did that, where like
he
was like the O-line got whatever.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Singleton got a deal with, I think it was Beats by Dre.
Yeah.
And he got the entire team Beats.
That he's like, I might be hitting this, but I'm also not going to be the only one who's going to have a positive.
So Nick was able to get.
Everyone knew.
I think it's Beats by Dre. I apologize to.
He got headphones from a brand,
but everybody did, right?
Yeah.
And Drew was able to do that and got it for the entire offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They say that the NCAA rules bar the university staff from securing or negotiating deals, right? So somebody secures and negotiates a deal. They go to Dan Cabala. They say, this is what I have. And Dan says, hey, this is how we want to do it internally for the players. Okay, so Dan doesn't do the deal, right? Said the organization, however, has shown little appetite for a crackdown on collectives that are too close to their schools. They say the most recent proposal would allow schools to take over the collectives' work and begin paying the athletes directly. The president of the one that Maisel works with is John Parker Wilson, the former Alabama quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He disputed the Maisel's account, saying that the collective was not controlled, directed, or managed by the university. Again, he's trying to get that distinction. But you can make suggestions. Like, hey, guys, this is how we'd like to do it. You can make a suggestion. It's up to them to take this.
In a perfect world, it'd be done this way.
Right.
If it gets done this way, that'd be really cool.
Look, this is all word salad here in terms of like, well, it's not controlled, directed, or managed by the university because they're trying to stay within NCAA rules. That's why he made that statement, okay? The other guy made a statement. He then he revised it. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. But in essence, that's how it's done. How about that? We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay? A year ago, Washington's football team resurrected. Okay, Kalen DeBoer brings in Michael Penix, who had been his quarterback at Indiana when he was the offensive coordinator. And look what they've done since he's been there. And Penix ended up being the runner-up to the Heisman Trophy.
Not bad.
Okay? Penix and several core members of that team, why are they where they are right now? They're going to lose 16 starters are gone after this game on Monday. So when you see Washington come into Beaver Stadium, it is not going to be the same Washington team you're seeing on Monday. Now, they're going to be really good, but the core group, the 16 of the 22, are not going to be bad.
I think Romo Dunze is gone. You've, of course, got Penix is gone. Like, you're losing a lot of guys.
Right. But they were able to stay. Why? Because of collectives. That's how they stayed. Okay? Washington's collective, Montlake Futures, actually struggled to find its footing in a chaotic startup, which is, by the way, for the most of the schools, it's been a chaotic startup. Others had a head start for some reason. Don't know why. Kentucky basketball, head start. Wow.
Yeah. Whoa. Whoa, USC. What?
Just seems so organized right out of the gate. How?
USC knows how to have players go to autograph signings and things. I can't imagine where that came from.
Right.
Definitely didn't help any Heisman winners.
Right. So they brought in a guy named Andrew Menier to run it. Okay, he wanted to keep the money from being the reason. I mean, he wanted to keep money from being the reason that Penix and others would leave for the NFL. Okay, so we offered a minimum salary of,
I'm guessing it's somewhere north of 50. 50 is what,
$750,000 this season.
Oh my God!
It wasn't a sticky note with a dollar amount, he said, nor was there any attempt to match their draft projection with a dollar value. Instead, he said the collective laid out the plan for the players to maximize their endorsement value by working with nonprofits, which would burnish their brands when they turn pro and their legacy in the community. Okay? Again, who wants to come out of college, with some money, but at the same time with a nonprofit charitable cachet that sets you on your way to the Walter Payton Award?
Steve, so that number, $750,000, just to put this into perspective, people. Two-way players in the NBA currently. This is the place I went to. Seth Lundy is his salary is
Seth Lundy's a two-way.
$560,000 is what he's at.
Yep.
So a college guy at Washington is getting more than an NBA player.
He's a quarterback.
Yeah.
More people are going to watch him play on Monday night than have watched anybody in the NBA this season, including LeBron.
But the fact that is like the scale we're looking at here, I think people need to remember and understand.
Yeah. Menier said the collective revenues, or all sports, have improved 4 times its federal filing in 2022, which was $2.02 million.
Steve, by the way, quick note. The minimum salary this year in the NFL, the minimum, $750,000.
Yep.
So these guys at Washington are making NFL minimums.
Well, Penix. That's the Penix number.
He's making an NFL minimum right now. He's an NFL player essentially contractually. It's crazy.
Menier said, quote, if you stack us up with Oregon, Alabama, LSU, and other schools and what they do, we're not at the top of the list. But right now they're up between 8 and 9 million because they say they have quadrupled their filing from 2022, which was 2.02. So they're up between 8 and 9 million now.
I'm guessing having that Big Ten tag is going to help a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah, but with what we do, we're probably efficient with it, he said. Montlake's futures cash reserves weren't flush. Menier said that something few college programs could sell, the opportunities that come with being anchored in a sports-thirsty major league city like Seattle, which, of course, Tuscaloosa isn't. But again, what is Tuscaloosa? And I've said this a lot. Okay, take Ohio State. What does Ohio State have? Columbus. What is Columbus? Columbus is the world headquarters for Nationwide Insurance. Columbus is the world headquarters for Wendy's. And those aren't the only world headquarters that are in there and have major headquarters. They have made it, whatever their tax laws happen to be, friendly for businesses to be there. Okay? Tuscaloosa, and excuse the phraseology here, but I think you know the metaphor I'm going for. That's Alabama, the state of Alabama's professional team. There's no Eagles, no Steelers, no Penguins, no Flyers, no Sixers, no Pirates. Okay, I'm talking about professional teams. And Phillies. Yes, the Pirates are. Pirates and Phillies, okay? They don't have that in that state.
It's like UConn and Connecticut. It is just UConn.
Right. Alabama and then Auburn, okay?
Those are your two pro sports teams. Either you root for Alabama or Auburn, or you don't root for either.
Now, Seattle does have, obviously, they have 3 of the 4. The only, oddly enough, the one they don't have is an NBA team.
They'll get in the next couple of years, but
right,
continue.
Which they'll get. The plan has kept the players at Washington. Penix announced his return last December and finished second in the Heisman Trophy. Dunzier, the wideout, all right?
Rome.
Braylon Trice, who had a fabulous game against Texas the other night. Okay, are are considered first-round draft picks. All those guys could have left last year, said Dylan Johnson, the running back, who, by the way, MRI negative.
Good.
They are expecting him to play Monday night, all right? But they came back. You know, they got some money. That helped their draft stock. So, I mean, in my opinion, I think it really helped them.
Yeah.
Michigan, save the best for last.
Oh, yeah. What better way to wrap up than Michigan, who has been in no controversy at all this season? There's none whatsoever, Steve.
Yeah.
Continue.
All right. Rod Moore, after his interception against Ohio State, said that he had called game with his catch. It was a matter of days before Mr. Moore and the school's marketing arm trademarked the phrase and began selling T-shirts. Guess who got the money? He did. Moore is a textbook example of how name, image, and likeness rights were intended to work. That's how it's supposed to work. Okay, so let's be straight with that. Keegan, offensive lineman, team captain, says, I'm not really a social media guy. And again, players should be able to benefit off their social media, podcasts, whatever, sell advertising. I'm all for that. Okay. But he said he's still making out nicely. He told Sports Illustrated at the start of the season he expected to bring in between $225,000 and $500,000 for his final college football season.
Oh, my God.
Through Michigan's collectives, Champions Circle and Hail Impact.
That's insane.
The setup at Michigan is a lot like Washington. At first, struggled to find NIL bearings. All right? But then they caught on. Hail Impact was formed as a nonprofit, objective to establish baseline payments to every Michigan football player. Champion Circle is for-profit. Last year created One More Year Fund, which raised money to help convince players who might be on the fence about their NFL return.
Not mistaken, that was Blake Corum, who was the main guy who came back for one more year and looked pretty darn good doing it.
Yes. In the NFL, he will get drafted. He'll probably be a third-day guy. I maintain that Donovan Edwards will be the higher drafted guy and have greater NFL value based on style of game.
Yeah.
Okay. But Corum's a heck of a college running back.
But the fact that they got this fund, which was like
Champion
one
Circle.
more year.
They've sought to raise money by selling high-price experiences to well-heeled Michigan fans. Texas does the same thing. And the Texas thing, I'm sorry. Texas A&M was doing that. And the NCAA said, no, it's against the rules. And Texas A&M looked there and go, wow. It's like in the movie Cool Hand Luke. There are no rules in a knife fight. Okay? That's right. For example, it advertised a package that included joining the Wolverines for their team dinner before the Ohio State game and running with the players out of the stadium tunnel and avoiding the other team, and leaping to touch the Go Blue banner, which most of them can't do. The price tag, $65,000.
Not bad.
Junior Colson said that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for some of those players. That's something they love to do, something they'll cherish, and something they love being at Michigan for. They'll love being a part of the Michigan team. We love having them hang around. By the way, it has been confirmed. Nicole Auerbach, outstanding reporter for The Athletic and also BTN.
Awesome. Yeah.
Confirmed. And they have photographic evidence of Connor Stallions in the stands at the Rose Bowl.
Very nice.
What kind of brazen individual is this? What are
he
you
just wants to go watch some football, Steve.
Well, that's why they created a TV. Like they don't care.
Nope. But you know what? We care. And we care enough that we're going to come back with, of course, Neil Coulong tomorrow.
This was not the show you expected.
Yes,
but
it is not. But it's the show we got and the show we enjoyed.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.